Good evening, everyone. I think it's evening. Welcome. Welcome to the 20th Annual Friends of the Library Fall Reception. My name is Simon Neem, and I'm Dean of Libraries here at UMass Amherst. And I want to welcome you to this evening's event and to the Old Chapel here at UMass. I would like to thank all of our friends who support so much of what we do here at the libraries. And if you're not a friend, please consider becoming one. This evening, we have a wonderful program for you to celebrate the donation of the Folk New England collection to Special Collections and University Archives here at UMass. To tell us more about this unique collection, I would like to invite Rob Cox, head of our Special Collections and University Archives, to the stage and to kick off this evening. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Simon. I'm Rob Cox, as he just said, and I've been to concerts before, and one of the questions that is probably in everyone's mind is, where are the archivists? And I'm here. I want to say that the Folk New England enterprise has been a tremendous amount of fun for myself, and I'll speak for Tom Curran. He better not say otherwise. Working with people who are amazingly talented individuals as musicians, as producers, as music industry people, in a general sense, and putting together an archive to tell the story of how folk music and roots music, has played into New England history in really intricate, amazing ways. Right now, we're at the beginning. We're looking at a door that's just ajar, and we know when you open that door, there's going to be some really great rooms in there. And we're walking through that first door tonight. And I want to thank you for coming out here, for sharing this. I hope all of you will think about how you might be able to help us and contribute to the archive, to help build connections, to help build collections, and to help build friends to support the environment as we go forward. And with that, what I'd like to do is introduce my friend Tom Curran, who will come up and introduce many, many more people. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. And thank you all for coming out this evening to this. As Rob said, this is the beginning of something really wonderful. It's the continuation of something really wonderful. What we're seeing is a collection of heartfelt people's lives that's now going into a professional archive. We've been moving this over the course of the last year here to UMass. It's the time of the folk music revival in Boston and Cambridge. It's pretty, for all of us who were part of it, an amazing thing. It's changed a lot of lives. It starts with memory, and this is where memory is starting to turn into history. As we move forward in age, and as this material starts to gain patina and more of a sense of time, it's important that we capture it and have it available for the future, and that's what we're up to, is that kind of history and memory. The second aspect of this really is about art, and if you listen to this music, if you love this music, you'll know just how beautiful it is and how heartfelt the journey was for city people, suburban people, to move into the hinterlands and the heritage of music and take it into their own hearts and learn it. And as you listen to the tapes over the years that we've started to digitize, you'll hear these young artists develop, learn from each other, gain confidence from mentors, gain confidence from the times, and gain confidence from connection to the American verities, if I can use that phrase. And the third aspect of all this, I can't think of a better word than magic. What happened in that time, and you could define it any way you want, people have, but say between 57, 58, and 67, 68, was a period of magic, and much of that magic was from the music. It was a tough time. In many ways, it was an oppressive time, and I don't need to go into the details, but I think they're important for people to remember as examples. If you were a woman and on Beacon Hill in the mid-'60s, you were probably carrying a broom or taking dictation. Well, for example, I grew up in Melrose. I went to pretty good schools. I didn't meet a person of color until I was 15 years old. And that happened at the Club 47, and that person was Jackie Washington, who had the good grace, I think, to know that I was that he was the first person of color that I was meeting, and couldn't have been more gracious. And in terms of my life, that was the start of something that made a big difference. And I think those times, some things that got hard, and then they got better. And they got better because people had faith and belief in the inherent goodness of our country and in the inherent power of music and art. And I think that's what this is all about. And I'm really glad that this is going to be available to students and scholars and all of you in the future. So tonight, before the music starts, I'd like to join with some friends in honoring some of the people who made that happen. The first person I'd like to mention is somebody I think I first met as a 15-year-old, trying to get my card to get me into the Club 47, and hoping that since my card and my ID wouldn't get me into many places, that I would pass muster. And that's Betsy Siggins-Schmidt. Betsy was the godmother of the whole movement. She has been, not only was she part of the heart and soul of all of it back then, part of a community of art and affection and dedication, but it's something that she's kept alive through a lifetime of devotion to the things she believes in. And you have been born witness to a lot, and you have been a straight and true inspiration for all of your life. So Betsy, please come up, and we'd like to give you this.
This is a culmination of my scattered life, all in one room. I thank every one of you who've been on this journey with me and have made my life better in so many different ways, always through music. I deeply appreciate all of you. Thanks.
Thank you, Betsy. Thanks for letting me in. Another part of the community this was all about music, of course. You can't believe it, and it may be hard to believe these days, but if you didn't have a recording contract, you didn't get listened to except in places that were coffee houses. Club 47 is probably by far the best known, but there were dozens of coffee houses in New England, and there were a lot of performers, some of well-known, some of them lesser known. We had our Tom Rushes and our Eric von Schmitz and our Jim Kweskin jug bands and Joan Baez and ultimately Bob Dylan, who came and took some pointers and left, went on to other things. But then we had people like Leonda and Ed Freeman and Jeff Gutchin, and I could name a lot more of them. And if it hadn't been for the Broadside magazine that was published in those days and the photographs taken by Rick Sulo, and the photographer for Broadside, we wouldn't have a record of any of that. And so I'd really like to honor David Wilson. I'd like to ask David to come up. And Rick Sulo. Rick, could you come up too? David herded cats. He herded volunteers to produce a wonderful publication that's now part of the archive. And every 2 weeks for dozens of years. How many years? Well, certainly
7 years.
Well, okay.
It seems like
it morphed into more, but we have that record, and the only reason it exists is because of David's skills and dedication and the photography of Rick Sulo. So I'm going to ask Rick to present this.
I sat in David's kitchen every 2 weeks for years, and we together put together Broadside magazine. He gave me strips of paper, which I put on larger strips of paper, and then there became the 12, 16 pages, whatever we did. He nurtured me. He changed my life. From him came my fascination with the music and with the period. It was an amazing experience, and I'm just so proud to be the one that gets to hand you this, David.
Well, thank you. This is almost worth being surprised like this. Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
And thank you to Betsy, too. And, you know, I wasn't intending to do anything like this, but I do want to say that there was one thing about the community that I felt, and I keep going back to, is that how little distance there was between many of the audience and the performers. And the performers were audience members in their own turn, and we had just an incredible pyramid of people with an interest in folk music and an interest in the performers who were picking up their instruments and doing this music. And it was a community like no other I've ever been a part of. And it has affected my life greatly. And if any of you were members of that community, thank you very much for what you did. Am I excused?
Next, we are really honored to have a member of the family, in some ways the quintessential member of the New England folk community family. Everywhere we go, we're asked what Tom Rush is up to, what Tom Rush is doing, and heard great references to the ways in which your art and your music has been a treasured force in everybody's lives. So for the next two presentations, if I could invite Tom up. And we'll start by asking Caitlin and Megan Von Schmidt to come up. Hi. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. And I wrote a long piece about the work and the impact of Eric Von Schmidt on American music and on the community that developed in Cambridge. But I think probably the best person to talk about that is Tom.
Well, coming into Cambridge in the fall of '59, my dad wanted me to go to Harvard, and that was all well and good. But the good part was that my dorm room was 1 block from 47 Mount Auburn Street. And it led to a lot of bad grades, great music. And in my mind and in my heart, Eric Von Schmidt was the prime mover of that whole scene. He made everything work. He could combine so many disparate influences. He wrote songs. He found songs on these scratchy old field recordings that nobody else could decipher. And he was so energetic musically, artistically. He combined so many different things. He was my idol for those years, and still is in a lot of ways. I keep hearkening back to what I learned from Eric. It was an honor to know him, and an honor to be a disciple.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you to the Toms. And also, I really wish that Papa was here because he was the guy that did not mind recognition. So thank you very much.
Another key player in keeping the trains running on time back then, I think of some of us as in the group of either artists or wannabe artists, and then there were a sprinkling of responsible adults. And at the top of that list was, in terms of his ability to apply business principles to art, was Byron Lord Leonardos, who was the person who kept things running at the Club 47. And I'd like to ask his daughter to come up, and we present this presentation. The family has recently made a gift of his calendars to Folk New England. These are iconic calendars, and we've done a catalog of all of the performers who performed at the Club 47. And the position that Byron played in this was huge. And Tom, if you could remember some of that for us.
I remember. I started getting involved in music in Cambridge through a folk show on Harvard's little 5-watt station, Balladeers, and I had to go find live guests to come on the show, and that led me to going to the Hootenannies, which led me to actually getting on stage quite by accident. I figured out you could get in for free if you had a guitar, and then I figured out you could get in for free if you had a guitar case, and I'd put a 6-pack in the guitar case and head off to the Hootenannies. And that led to playing at the Unicorn down on Boylston Street in Boston. And Byron was the manager of the Unicorn, and he gave me a night a week there, which was great. And I started building an audience. And then Byron moved over to the Club 47 and brought me with him. And that was great, because the Club 47 was, as far as I was concerned, the flagship of the fleet. And it was a great honor to be able to play there. And my goal for years was to be able to draw as many people as Jackie Washington did. But Byron was a huge influence on the trajectory of my career, because he basically mentored me at the Unicorn, and then at the Club 47. He was a genius at organizing. He was a genius at doing artwork. And he was a dear, dear friend, and I miss him dearly.
I want to thank you all so much on behalf of my family, my mom, Catherine, who couldn't be here today, my sister, Pavan, and my husband, David, who's here. It is just incredibly heartwarming to hear the stories from everybody about what an impact he had on people's lives. We've heard stories about the Club 47 since my childhood. My earliest memories are of watching my father make the calendars at our dining room table with the letrosette and the cutouts, and he was very passionate about, selecting the font and the woodcut of the personality of the performers, so there's a lot of heart and soul that went into it. And in fact, we're donating a few more tonight, some originals I have with me if anybody wants to see. But it really means so much to us to have the opportunity. Thank you, Tom, for creating this opportunity, and Tom for everything. and just thanks very much.
Thank you. So our next performer to recognize before as we're closing in on getting into the performance, is Bill Keith. Sometime in the late 50s, the story goes, and I think I've substantiated this, there was a phone call that came here to Bill or Jim Rooney, and it was from Annie Greenhill, who wanted to have Odetta come and sing here in the Valley, but they needed some kind of a sponsor. So a group of young student types, I'm never sure who was students and who were student types, but those included Jim Rooney, Bill Keith, Buffy St. Marie, and Taj Mahal, among other people, decided to create the Pioneer Valley Folklore Society in order to have a mechanism to bring Odetta to this community. They're still in business, as you all know, doing great things here in the Valley. the Come For to Sing booklets that have enlivened thousands of Unitarian churches and others throughout, and our kids and our grandkids are all part of that story that keeps going. Bill was playing with Jim. Bill's banjo playing took off. He became a wonderful banjo player. Bill and Jim did a great record on Prestige Folklore Records and were stalwart performers in Club 47. Bill went on also to transpose all of Earl Scruggs' banjo stuff, which was a great surprise to many people, including Earl Scruggs, and opened up the doors to all kinds of banjo pickers. And I'll tell you, one of the things, he then went on to a full life in music and in the music business. But my favorite Bill Keith moment happened at the Newport Folk Festival when he was playing behind Bill Monroe. Bill Monroe, as we all know, was a tough grader, and he was the real thing. He was a guy from the South. And he introduced Bill, and Bill played Devil's Dream with the whole band, and as you know, that was a fifth gear, like a lot of Bill Monroe stuff. It was a fifth gear operation. And when it all ended, Bill was beside himself. He said, "How about that now?" He said, "That kind of sound, you would have think that fellow was in the South. He didn't know. He come from Boston." And I'll tell you, my heart just about jumped out of my chest with pride, because I was trying to figure out how to keep from getting bad blisters on my fingers from learning an F chord. And the fact that a guy who looked like me and sounded like me and came from the same state I did could do it and get an accolade from Bill Monroe meant a lot. And Bill Keith's reputation in music marches on today, and I just want to present this to the family, please. If you could. I know we've got family members present in the band. Thank you. Thanks for everything that your dad did for us. If you'd like to say anything.
I just have one word to say. I really did not know and expect that I was going to be up here, but I love that little Boston anecdote. And as you probably know, my husband is playing in a different place now, but we were fortunate that 3 weeks before he passed, he was honored at the Bluegrass Hall of Fame, and we went down there, and of course there was all the accolades, and it was wonderful. But the thing that I most loved, and I still have, is that he was honored at the same time at Del McCoury, I believe, and there was a little card in the program in there with a picture of the new museum, and printed on it was Bill's picture, and underneath it was written, "Welcome home." So he was welcome back in the South, and that touched me beyond belief. So I thank you so much.
I'll just add one little thing. My father loved to tell Bill Monroe stories, and he told us a story once about the time Bill Monroe had his first bagel. And what he said, and apparently I don't know if it's true or not, but he said, "This is the worst darn donut I've ever had."
Thank you. We'll remember that story. And now I'd like to present something to Jim Rooney. Jim has been part of the spinal cord of this whole story ever since it started. I made reference to the Pioneer Valley Folklore Association. And Jim went on with Bill to be a powerful member of the Club 47 community. We still treasure his records. I was at a sing in Woodstock 3 weeks ago and heard Harry Tuft decide to sing a song. He said, and I first learned this from the old Keith and Rooney record. So it's still rippling. It's still rippling these days. And Jim's career went on to help run the Club 47. He made the calendars after Byron stopped doing that. Went on to be a director of the Newport Folk Festival. Went on then to a career in Nashville in which he has touched all of us through the art and the music of other people. Iris DeMent, Nancy Griffith, John Prine. And countless others, as he's been a part of that community and one of the most respected members of the Nashville country music family. So I think what I'll do, I'm assuming you're in earshot, Jim, because you're on stage in a minute, and I didn't bring a guitar. But I'd like to really honor Jim and thank him for the key role he's played in giving his collection to Folk New England back when we had just barely started. And this was a collection of many pieces, as you can imagine after a career like that. Remembrances, contracts, diaries, photographs, that some of them back here years ago in the Valley, and culminating with the work he did in Nashville. So ultimately, to tell the truth, I went to Jim to ask him if he'd take on the chairmanship of the Board of Folk New England, and he said to me, "I'm not a religious man, Tom, but I think God put you here to do this." So here we are. And without further ado, I guess we'll introduce the band. Thank you.
Hello, friends and neighbors. That's you.
I can really kill a show, can I? It was really rolling along, and now it's ground to a halt. Thank you. Well, this is great. I'm very happy about all this. It's much better to have this stuff out from under my bed and my closet and all of our beds and all of our closets and into a place where it's going to be professionally treated. And I have a lot of confidence in Rob and all of the people I've met here. And this is going to be really good, and it's going to make all this material accessible in a very professional, coherent way to anybody who's interested. It is very strange to be part of history. It's really weird. And still be alive, of course. And but whatever, you know, I'm very happy about this. And you know, as Tom mentioned, through Manny Greenhill, we started the Pioneer Valley Folk Song Society right here. And Bill and I were going to Amherst College, and Buffy and Taj were going here. And I'm so glad that we did, and it's still going. And there's a lot of activity up in this part of the world. It is not all about Cambridge, folks. And I hate to disabuse you of that, and I hope some of the material from this area comes into the archive, as well as Maine and Vermont and New Hampshire and other New England places. It's New England Folk Archive. So that's enough about me. What do you think about me? I am a roving gambler. I gambled all around. Wherever I meet with a deck of cards, gonna lay my money down. I've gambled down in Washington, gambled over in Spain. I'm on my way down Georgia, gonna knock down my last game. Knock down my last game, knock down my last game. Well, I had not been in Washington many more weeks than 3. I fell in love with a pretty little girl, she fell in love with me. She took me in her parlor, she cooled me with her fan, whispered low in her mother's ear, I love a gambling man, love a gambling man, love a gambling man. Daughter, oh dear daughter, how could you treat me so? To leave your dear old mother and with a gambler go. Mother, oh dear mother, you know I love you well. The love I have for that gambler man, no human tongue can tell. No human tongue can tell, no human tongue can tell. Well, I wouldn't marry a railroad this is the reason why I've never seen a railroad man who would tell his wife a lie. I wouldn't marry a farmer, they're always in the rain. The man I want to marry wears a big gold chain. A big gold watch chain, big gold watch chain. I'll tell you if I can, if you ever see me coming back, I'll be with a gambling man. With a gambling man, with a gambling man. I am a roving gambler, I've gambled all around. Wherever I meet with a deck of cards, I'm gonna lay my money down. I've gambled down in Washington, gambled over in Spain. I'm on my way down Georgia, gonna knock down my last game. Knock down my last game, boys, knock down my last game. All right. Well, I met Bill Keith over here in 1959, and we were taking a break from our studies, and that break went on for quite some time. And so he had gotten to the last page of Pete Seeger's instruction book on the 5-string banjo, and that was Earl Scruggs' page, and he had just started learning that. And I told him that I remembered some of those songs from a band in Boston, the Lilly Brothers, Don Stover, Tex Logan, and so we started getting together. And he's now in the Bluegrass Hall of Fame, thanks to me. So here's one of the first pieces of Earl's we did. Earl made a wonderful instrumental record called Just a Foggy Mountain Banjo, and this was on it. And I found the words on a Lomax collection called Reuben's Train. Had a train run from Boston down to Maine. You ought to hear that whistle when you boat. When old Reuben left home was but 9 days old. When he come back, he's a full-grown man. Crying, Reuben, 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 oh, 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 I wonder where that poor boy has gone. Crying, Reuben, Reuben, I wonder when that poor boy's coming home. She was tired of her life, 'cause old Reuben didn't have no home. Oh, I don't know for sure, believe he's gone to Mexico, 900 miles from his home. Crying, Reuben, 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 oh, 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 I wonder where that poor has gone. Crying, Reuben, Reuben, I wonder when that poor boy's coming home. man, I want you to bury me in the sand so I can hear that special wind you blow. I don't like no real man, he's gonna kill you if he can, and drink your blood like wine. Thank you very much. Well, this is a very nice sounding room, and it's being made sound even better by my old friend Klondike back there on the side. Klon and Tom Rush were secretly married for quite a long time, but I think that's over. He's worked in Newport for years, and we're very lucky to have him with us tonight. And here's, this was actually the most productive afternoon that Bill Keith and I ever spent, and financially. And he was running over a Sonny Osborne tune, Banjo Boy Chimes. It had these changes in it, and like that. And I was reading, my mother had given me Carl Sandburg's American Song Bag when I turned 16. And I was just getting songs out of there, but I wasn't paying too much attention to the music. I was just getting the words and making up melodies. And when I heard those changes, something clicked inside, and one thing led to another. Bill at this time was experimenting with the auto harp, which he took all apart and souped up and put those felts where he wanted them to be, not where Oscar Schmidt wanted them to be. And he could play all sorts of stuff on the auto harp. At any rate, we recorded this on our first album. And many years later, about 10 years later, I was visiting my sister, Eileen, and her daughter, Kate, who's here tonight, informed me that James Taylor had recorded our song. And it was Christmas Day, and I said, are you sure? It's all right, same melody, you sure? I was grilling her, and she was sure. But it was Christmas, and I couldn't go out. Back then, in the very olden times, you couldn't do anything on Sunday except eat, sleep, and maybe go to church, and you couldn't buy anything. So I had to wait till the day after Christmas and go buy the record, One Man Dog, and there it was, One Morning in May, traditional, arranged by James Taylor. Well, actually, Bill and I had had the wisdom, even at that tender age, to copyright that melody. And long story short, people ask me, maybe nobody here, but some people ask me when I'm on, after I get off of a fabulous performance, Jim, where do you get those clothes? Every bit I've got on, it's all from L.L. Bean, has been paid for by James Taylor. God bless him. Here we go. If I could play it, it'd be nice. One morning, one morning, one morning in May, I spied a fair couple a-making their way, and one was a maiden so bright and so fair. The other was a soldier and a brave volunteer. Good morning, good morning, good morning to thee. Oh, where are you going, my pretty lady? Oh, I'm going to the banks of the sea to see the waters gliding, hear the nightingale sing. Well, he hadn't been a-standing but a minute or two when out from his knapsack a fiddle he drew, and the tune he was playing made the valleys all ring. Oh, see the waters gliding, hear the nightingale sing. Pretty lady, it's time to give over. Oh no, pretty soldier, please play one tune more. For I'd rather hear your fiddle or the touch of one string than to see the waters gliding, hear the nightingale sing. Pretty soldier, will you marry me? Oh no, pretty lady, that never can be. I've a wife in old London and children twice three, 2 wives in the army's too many for me. Well, I'll go back to London and I'll stay there 1 year, and often I'll think of you, my little dear. And when I return, it will be in the spring to see the waters gliding, hear the nightingale sing. Well, I've searched high and low through the hills and valleys of Vermont and New England to find these fellows, and on my over here on the mandolin, or Bill Monroe would say on the little mandolin, that's Colin McCaffrey from East Montpelier, Vermont. And way over there on the little fiddle, as Monroe would say, currently from Amherst. You might have seen him playing with Robin and Linda Williams here and there over the years. Plays with Peter McLaughlin out west these days. We made a record together, and wonderful singer and songwriter, a fiddler, all around lovely person, Chris Brashear. And back here you've already met Martin Keith, Bill's son. A luthier, makes electric basses and guitars. KeithGuitars.com. MartinKeithGuitars.com. Well, if you paid me a little more, I'd get it right. Yeah, right. And over here, currently and originally from St. Johnsbury, Vermont, lived in Colorado and was head man for the Front Range Bluegrass Band for quite a few years, made a lot of albums, and songwriter, got a studio, everything, and Bob Amos. has taken its toll. So I'm bound where the wild river rolls. 500 days I have waited in vain, hoping for you to come home. I can't rise above this life without your love, so I'm bound where the wild river rolls. I'm bound where the wild river rolls. I'm bound where the tall pine trees grow. The cost of your love has taken its toll, so I'm bound where the wild river rolls. I'm bound to where the wild river rolls. Thank you.
I recorded that song in Ireland with a band called the Lee Valley String Band from Cork before I ever knew Bob. I didn't know he wrote it, didn't know anything about him, and now I do. It's a really good one.
Yeah.
Oh,
What's a new shirt?
We'll talk about it on the way home. Here's a Bill Monroe song from early days, and many, you know, he's in the Bluegrass Hall of Fame, obviously, he's in the Country Music Hall of Fame, but you might not know that he's also in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And shortly after he died, they were going through Bill's closets, and by God, there was a pair of blue suede shoes. And at any rate, he was doing that after midnight, I think. But this is, he loved the blues, and this is an old blues number that he put together. I'm leaving you just to get you off my mind. I'm leaving you just to get you off my mind. Where you give me worry, cause me trouble all the time. Where the 6 wide horses rolling 2 by 2. Oh, the 6 wide horses rolling 2 by 2. Some other woman has took my love from you. Train that I'm riding is 16 coaches long. Oh, the train that I'm riding is 16 coaches long. Well, the man has gone out. She's gone. 6 wide horses rolling 2 by 2. The 6 wide horses rolling 2 by 2. Some other woman has took my love from you. Well, if you don't believe I'm leaving, why don't you count the days I'm gone? If you don't believe I'm leaving, count the days I'm gone. Well, the next time that you
this evening could pay all the judgment. When 6 white horses roll into battle. This 6 white horses roll into battle. Some other woman has took my love from you. Tell me, pretty mama, which way the water run. Oh, you tell me, pretty mama, which way the water run. Oh, right from my back door to the set of the rising sun. Well, Chris is a really good songwriter, and here is one of his. We're all going to gather around.
Well, that's right. As I said earlier, you are my friends and neighbors here. I know there's a few people I know out in the audience tonight. And I'll just take a minute to say a couple things. It was one of the great privileges of my life to have get to know Jim and have him produce a recording for me. Every musician's dream that plays old-time country music or something is to go to Nashville and make a recording. And so I finally did it, and I got Jim Rooney. And just to, you know, I'm still afraid of this guy. You know, there's nobody I'm more nervous to play music with than Jim, just because I just want to make him so happy, you know, please him. And but I'll tell you, he was the most approachable person I think I've ever gotten to know, really, in many ways. And in order to finally contact him, I called my buddy banjo player Richard Bailey, and I said, "Boy, I wonder if I could get Jim Rooney to produce a recording." He said, "Oh, I'll talk to Jim." And next thing I know, Jim's calling me up and says he's coming through Amherst, and he'd like to talk to me. And by gosh, that's what he did. Next thing I knew, I was having lunch with Jim Rooney and making a record. So this is a song, one of the first songs I ever recorded, though, and it's called Mason's Lament, and we're going to try to do it in the old-time gospel quartet style. My house is stone, my hands are ruddy. I've worked my fingers to the bone, but still I find my life a wanting. There is no strength to carry on. I'm gonna climb up to the top of the mountain, gaze across the golden sunset sky. I'll catch a glimpse of the early moonlight, look for a home way up on high. You know I've tried to live the good life by working stone and turning clay, but flesh is weak, the spirit stronger. My life is soon to pass away. I'm gonna climb up to the top of the mountain, gaze across the golden sunset sky. I'll catch a glimpse glimpse of the early moonlight. I look for a home way up on high. Throughout the years, I've often wondered where I would find a lasting peace. The mountains always seem to whisper, come here, you'll find what you will see. I'm gonna climb up to the top of the mountain, gaze across the golden sunset sky. I'll catch a glimpse of the early moonlight, look for a home way up on high.
We were big fans of Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs and their whole show, and I loved Lester Flatt singing and tried to imitate him for a while. That was a lot of success, but we saw them in Jordan Hall in Boston one time, and Lester, after a song like that, he'd say, well, this song's a little bit on the sacred side. Well, this is another of their songs, and this song is just a little bit on the secular side. It's called I'm Gonna Sleep with One Eye Open. Well, I just found out today the little game you play. I've been sleeping my whole life away. You've been stepping, so they say, between midnight and day. So I'm gonna sleep one eye open from now on. From now on. From now on. All night long. All night long. You won't get a chance to treat your daddy wrong. You've been stepping, so they say, midnight and day. I'm gonna sleep one eye open from now on. Well, you thought you'd being wise, running around with other guys, and leaving me to spend my nights alone. But you'll find out today it don't work out that way. You started a little game that you can play. Oh, from now on, all night long, you won't get a chance to treat your daddy wrong. You've been stepping, so they say, between midnight and day. So I'm gonna sleep one eye open from now on. There's a honky-tonk down the road, just about a mile or so in East Hadley. I understand that's where you spend your time. Baby, I got news for you, your little game is through. From now on, baby, you're gonna toe that line. From now on, all night long, you don't get a chance to treat your daddy wrong. You've been stepping, so they say, between midnight and day. So I'm gonna sleep one eye open from now on.
you did it wrong, wrong, wrong. You've been stepping, so they say, between midnight and day. So I'm gonna sleep well out from now on. A little bit on the secular side. Okay, folks, this is a lovely room. I know we have some wonderful singers here, and, well, not up here, I mean, but we have, I spent a long time, 40 years almost, in Nashville because of a great man named Jack Clement, Cowboy Jack. And you might have not know about him, but he was on the Hayloft Jamboree in 1954, just a couple of months before I was, with a trio of Scotty Stoneman and Buzz Busby. They call themselves the Bayou Boys. So I saw Jack way back then. And then he went back to Memphis, where he came from, and started working for Sam Phillips, produced and recorded a whole lot of shaking going on, Jerry Lee. Wrote Ballad of a Teenage Queen. I don't like it, but I guess things happen that way. One of my favorite songs for Johnny Cash. Just a Girl I Used to Know for George Jones, and went on to produce Waylon Jennings and lots of people. And I came into his orbit in 1976, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And he taught me all kinds of things about how to play rhythm guitar and how to writing songs and publishing and having a lot of fun while you're doing it. One of his mottos was, if you're not having fun, you're not doing your job right. We're in the fun business. The words to live by. At any rate, his dad was a choir director, and he loved singing, just loved it. And he wrote this song about a girl we all knew and loved, and it has a chorus, has some words, but they're not words, it's just la la. So don't get nervous, I'm gonna ask you to sing. I'm not Pete Seeger, let's get that straight right now. But I am asking you to sing and be generous and raise your voices. This is a chapel. I'm sure that's had its share of good singing in it. So let's do it. And we'll have a little rehearsal in the middle of the song, and then we'll really hit it later on. At any rate, this is called Gone Girl, Cowboy Jack Clement. She is delightfully tall, sort of a blonde girl, and she is deliciously small, sort of a song girl. She freely admits to the world that she was a wrong girl, but there's nothing compared to the fact that she is a gone girl. Gone like a knock on the door, gone like yesterday and before, gone with the wind forevermore. Rehearsal. La 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 la. Lovely. Well, she never laid claim to the fact that she was a strong girl. So why should I loudly proclaim she was a wrong girl? No, I'd rather think of her name as some sort of song girl, and think poetical things to think of my gone girl. Gone like a knock on the door, gone like yesterday and before, gone with the wind
God bless Jack. Come on. I forgot to mention Colin here. He also has a studio at home. Everybody has them now. They don't need me anymore. But he produces a lot of very good artists up there where he lives in East Montpelier, and good songwriter too. And but he's not going to do one of his songs tonight, are you?
We're doing a Stanley Brothers tune for you.
Okay.
Was raised a crooked man, made the county dry and the price is high for the bootleg whiskey man. His age was barely 20 and his family was ashamed. They had a son who left his home for bootleg whiskey game. Said bootleg John's come on home, your family's all alone. You're running wild, your baby child wants his daddy home. Said bootleg John's come on home, family's all alone. You're running wild when your baby child wants his daddy home. Now his wife, she loved him dearly, but he seldom came around. Oh, she'd always cry when he said goodbye, but she never could hold him down. With his pistol in his pocket and his shotgun on the floor, he made his run to Lexington to the bootleg whiskey store. I said, bootleg John's come on home, family's all alone. You're running wild when your baby child wants his daddy home. I said, bootleg John's come on home, family's all alone. You're running wild when your baby child wants his daddy home. Full of whiskey, and his hand was on his gun. And he was set to go, but he didn't know he was making his last run. Well, that sheriff pulled him over, but he shot that lawman down. And they put him away in the county jail, and the jailer slapped him down. I said, bootleg John's come on home, the family's all alone. You're running wild when your baby child wants his daddy home. I said, bootleg John's come on home, family's all alone. You're running wild when your baby child wants his daddy home. Bootleg John's come on home, family's all alone. You're running wild when your baby child wants his daddy home. Come on, bootleg John's come on home, family's all alone. You're running wild when your baby child wants his daddy home.
Fine. I worked up in Woodstock, New York, at Bearsville studio there in the early 70s for Albert Grossman. And one afternoon, a couple of pickers came up to the studio, and it was a nice hot July afternoon, and I knew who they were, but I didn't know the fellow with them, and he was wearing overalls, he had no shirt, no shoes, and had kind of long, lanky hair, and a beard, and he looked a little like Jesus. And I said, I'm not ready. But it wasn't. But it was just as good, maybe even a little bit better. It was Bobby Charles who gave us See You Later, Alligator, Walking to New Orleans, I'm Just the Jealous Kind. And Bobby, that evening, Bill Keith was away, so we decided we'd have a little party at Bill's house. And why not? Yeah. And so we all went over there, and Bobby was not a great guitarist or anything, but he sat down and he sang me this song, and I've never, ever forgot it. And every time I play, I sing it. He was in Nashville before he came up to the Woodstock area. He was working with an R&B disc jockey named John R., a very famous guy down in Nashville. Bobby had a little garden out back and little house, and some nosy neighbor looked over the fence, didn't like what he was seeing, and Bobby got the picture pretty fast. This was 1970, 71 in Nashville. There weren't any dispensaries around at that time. And so he decided, rather than find out what was going to happen to him, he'd already found that out a few times, and he boogied and left, and he wound up in the Catskill Mountains, and he wrote this song there. That's what it's about. It's finding a little peace and quiet, called the Tennessee Blues. If I had my way, I'd leave here today. I'd move in a hurry. I'd find me a place where I could stay and not have to worry. Someplace I'd feel loose, someplace I could lose these Tennessee. I'd find me a spot on some mountaintop with no one around me, with valleys and streams and birds in the trees and lakes that surround me. Someplace I feel loose, someplace I could lose these Tennessee. To forget all my regrets and keep just the good times. Someplace I could sleep in nothing but peace and feel free at all times. Someplace I'd feel, someplace I could lose these Tennessee. Someplace I could lose these Tennessee blues. bless Bobby Charles. Well, we lost a dear friend this past year, and he was in the Charles River Valley Boys. He took a lot of photographs back then, which are now part of this archive, and we'll be seeing more of them. And he went on to become Janis Joplin's tour manager, wrote a book about that, wrote a novel called Snowblind Moon, and a wonderful, very talented man, and taught us a lot about how to live, how to die. So John Cook, I'm talking about. So I would like to ask a dear friend of John's, Tim Erickson, to come up here and sing a song of farewell that I learned and certainly heard from Doc Watson originally. So come up here, Tim.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you guys for the music. I know a lot of you knew John a lot better than I did. This is a song that he sang for his dad, one that he wanted to hear. So he was on his way out. It's also a song that's got a long history, a good 100+ years before Doc Watson, right around here. It was a favorite of Native American folks, different parts of New England. It's all right. I came to the place where the lone pilgrim lay, and pensively stood by his tomb, when in a whisper I heard something say, how sweetly he sleeps here alone. The tempest may howl and the loud thunders roar, and gathering storms may arise, yet calm are his feelings, at rest is his soul. The tears are all wiped from his eyes. He wandered in exile and stranger from home, no kindred or relatives nigh. He met the contagion and sank to his tomb. His soul flew to mansions on high. Oh, tell his companions and children most dear to weep not for him, now he's gone. The same God that led him through scenes most severe has kindly assisted him home.
Well, our time has come and gone. I want you to thank Colin McCaffrey over here, Chris Brashear over there, Bob Amos here, and Martin Keith. And
Jim Rooney.
Thank you. And of course, Betsy, Tom, and everyone, and Felice, Leonardos, and the Von Schmidts, and as was mentioned, we're just really, although Betsy started this a good while ago, this is actually now a new beginning and a serious beginning for this whole project, and we hope you all will support it. So this is a song, another Charles River Valley boy, Clay Jackson, who's one of the original fellas. Clay, when I was back in Massachusetts in around 1974, I was having a midlife crisis, and I needed a few friends, and he was one of them. And I used to go over to his house. He had every George Jones record ever made, and we'd listen to music and play music. And he played me this song. It's a Rolling Stones song, but it's not like the Rolling Stones did it. And we said, well, it's more like a train song, you know, when Clay did it. And I took it with me to Nashville, played it for Jack Clement. Bill Keith and I recorded it on his Something Old, Something Bluegrass album, 1975. And it kind of started entering the bluegrass world. And then Jack Clement loved it. He made a record with me on it, his last single on his label, and put that label right out of business. And I have a gift. And and then he showed it to Johnny Cash and John Hartford. And do you think I ever got a thank you note from Mick and Keith? No, but you know, it doesn't matter. And so this is for Bill Keith and Byron and John Cook. All our friends, Eric. No expectations. Now you take me to the station, then you put me on a train. Oh, I've got no expectation to ever pass through here again. Well, once I was a rich man, and now I am so poor. But never in my sweet short life have I felt like this before. It's like a diamond. I see you cast your pearls at swine. And as I see you leaving me, oh, it cracks my peace of mind. Your love is like the water, see it splashing on a stone. Your love is like the music, first it's and then it's gone. Take me to the airport and you pour me on a plane. Oh, I've got no expectation to ever pass through here again. To ever pass through here again. To ever pass through here again. All right, thanks all. Thank you.
Jim Rooney.
Thank you very much. Colin, Martin, Bob, and Bruce. Thanks a million.